Today we've gone back in time to 1959 to find out what motorcycles of that era were really like, and whether motorcycles of today are any better or whether they could learn from the past.
This is absolutely the oldest bike we have ever ridden. This is a 1959 Ariel Huntmaster 650. So let's talk about what this thing is like to ride.
Now, when we arrived, before we set off on this bike, the chap from, where did we get it from?
F2 Motorcycles.
And they're near Whiz Beach, Cambridgeshire.
Yeah.
And if you find them on their website, look for Jawa Motorcycles and you'll find them.
Yes.
We'll put the description down below.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he explained how to start it. It's a bit of a procedure. You've got a carburetor, you've got to press this little plunger in till you get some fuel coming out, and then you kick start the bike. It starts fairly easily, actually.
It does, actually.
He basically said just kick away, you don't have to really worry about it. It's not like a big powerful motocross bike with lots of compression which will knock your leg off.
It's got no compression really, is it?
Fine. Easy to start. It's a real experience. Now you've got the gear shifter on old English bikes on the right.
Yeah.
So the first gear is 1 up, and then it's 3 down. I think it's 4 gears, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
And each gear, though, the clutch is in the normal place. As you go through the gears, you've kind of got to slow it down. It's not like a modern bike where you can do it really quickly.
No.
You've got to throttle off, clutch in, gear change, and let it out.
It's very methodical.
Yeah, if you're coming down, downshifting, you've got to let the clutch out a little slower, haven't you?
And it doesn't really want to go into a gear downshifting. So no. I found that coming to stop, you've just got to kind of stop the bike and then go back down to first. That's kind of what I do.
Yeah, I think after a little while you'd work out its idiosyncrasies, wouldn't you? You'd work out how it feels.
Yeah.
You've got to ride it a little bit more carefully, respectfully, compared to a new motorcycle. Obviously it's very old, but even I'd imagine when it was new, you still have to do things in a certain way and get it just right.
It's older than you, isn't it?
That's unbelievable.
It's really old then.
That is old, yeah.
Now this 650 engine that's in this is a twin, and this was first introduced in 1954, and it shares a lot of its internals with the BSA A10, and a lot of people assume that this was just a BSA A10 in different shoes, but it certainly isn't. Everything else is ground up from Ariel, and this is a work of art. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. As soon as we got to F2 Motorcycles this morning, this was by the door, and my God, look at it. It's absolutely stunning. They don't really make many motorcycles that look as beautiful as that these days. I just want to interrupt this video to let you know that we are hosting a bike meet to celebrate reaching 100,000 subscribers. This bike meet will be on the 15th of June. That's a Saturday the 15th. At the Bike Sanctuary. So I'll leave the details on the screen and in the description now, so please make sure you clear your calendars and let us know in the comments below if you can make it.
Now, before we set off, the chap explained that the brakes aren't too good, he said. But yeah, I thought, okay, well, they'll be okay. So I followed Darcy around and got to this junction. There was a car coming out, so I put the brakes on. Nothing happened.
It's absolutely terrifying.
I pulled in the front brake, and it's almost like, it's not even as good as a bicycle brake. That
no, it's not.
I don't know, there was nothing. Almost something, but very little. And then, of course, you forget where the back brake is, because normally it's on the right. So you've got to think where that is. So by the time I found the back brake, I'd nearly drove into the car that was pulling out. So you do have to be really careful on an old motorcycle. I mean, these brakes are probably rubbish for an old bike. I mean, they're not all as bad as this, but
no. But this is a very old bike. And what you have to remember is, in the late 1950s, there was zero traffic on the road, so there wasn't much that they had to actually stop for. They weren't really thinking about stopping, they would just carry on going. But now the roads are so heavily congested that riding a bike like this, you have to go extra slow, and when you see a junction coming up, you've got to slow down 10 times before where you would on a modern motorcycle, because it just doesn't stop.
Yeah, you need to plan ahead, don't you?
Yeah, I think you probably stop it faster by just stamping your feet on the ground.
Yeah, in an emergency, I mean, you
have to,
stop.
yeah.
So you've either got to drive over something or around it, or in a ditch, because there's no way to stop. But, that's all part of the fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it would be, yeah. But if someone hadn't warned us that the brakes aren't particularly good, I think we probably would have died today.
Yeah.
So.
Running from front to back so I don't forget anything, first thing to notice is this mudguard which covers the wheel. 1959, they knew that roads get wet and muddy and mucky, and if you have a mudguard protecting the front wheel, that muck won't be on you or the bike. Nowadays, I mean, there was a Ducati you saw, wasn't it? I don't think the mudguard was more than what?
That big. It was about 3 inches.
I mean, what is the point? So, the proper mudguards need to come back. And I love these forks. They've got these fork covers, like my BMW R18. So that's good.
Beautiful.
Like that. Brakes are crap, aren't they?
Awful.
Twin cylinder engine.
Makes a lovely noise.
It does. Actually, it does, doesn't it? It sounds really nice. It's got a
pea shooter.
It's a lovely sound.
Yeah, it is.
I like that. Yeah, pea shooter exhaust. That's pretty.
Yeah.
The Kickstarter doesn't fold in,
no.
But it doesn't really get in the way when you're riding, does it?
Not at all, no.
And this is sort of slightly like the Royal Enfield Classic 350, isn't it?
Yeah, they've obviously taken design cues.
Smiths, I don't know if you know, but Smiths gauges were the ones to have.
Were they?
In the past. They still make them. Beautiful, beautiful quality
Absolutely
gauges.
stunning, isn't it?
Love that.
That
Got
is
light
just...
switches, bits and pieces. There's a choke there. That was something to do with the lights here. And an off switch, that's very basic. No modes. Who wants flipping modes?
And you've got a mirror here, which isn't original, because bikes in these days didn't have mirrors. So this has been added on. It's quite a nice mirror, isn't it? Yeah. But you only got one.
And the seat, it's big, it's
lovely.
fat, it's comfortable, doesn't it? Actually,
yeah,
it works. You're supposed to sit on seats. Nowadays they design seats purely for looks. They're awful, aren't they? But this is really padded, it's very nice. And again, the rear mudguard comes to the back of the wheel, so you can put the number plate on the back instead of having a stupid plastic extension thing. So the modern bikes, don't they? Have the silly mudguard ending there or here, and then they put this damn silly plastic thing. I mean, it's such a silly idea. It's tough looking, big frame here.
Isn't it a shame that nowadays we have to have a big yellow plate? Because this is a lovely metal, black and silver plate. It's not too big either. It's beautiful, and it doesn't detract from the bike. But now the number plates really do spoil the look of the bike. So we're trying to get away from that.
Classic bikes, obviously, you can have the black and silver and cars.
Yeah.
I think if it's before 1980 currently, I think it rolls on.
Isn't it going to roll on? Yeah.
If it's 40 years old, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
They did stop it in 1972, I think it was. Anything before that, but then they changed it to roll on.
So maybe it's 1984 now.
Well, it might be because I probably read it on an old website. But
Probably.
yeah, I think that's about what it is.
We'll have to double check.
But it'd be nice to have that on all motorbikes, I think, because motorbike number plates are dangerous.
This has also got a hidden chain, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Which is what we've seen on the new Jawa. But yeah, hidden chain, which is, you don't see that anymore, do you?
No. And the engine's quite nice looking. This bit here is nice and
gorgeous.
shiny, isn't it?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
You've got a sort of circular double barrel, two cylinders, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a twin.
It's a twin.
Yeah.
Brake on the left, but there's a lot of oil leaks and things on this bike. So
Yeah, it's a lot of something coming out of it.
yeah, but it's just the way it is. It's quite fun. So considering it's 1959, it starts, doesn't it? It goes.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop very well, but it starts and goes, and it seems quite reliable actually. So I believe this bike's actually for sale, isn't it?
I think so.
I'm not sure what the price is. We'll put it up on the screen.
Yeah, if it is for sale, we'll have to double check when we get back, because it might be his pride and joy.
But if you want a bike like this, would you buy a bike like this? I think it's an experience, isn't it?
It's a piece of art as well. But I think if you're going to buy a bike like this, you need to be someone who knows what they're doing. You need to be a little bit of a mechanic, whether it's a sort of mechanic for fun. But you need to know how to tinker with a bike, because you're going to have to do that. And if you don't know how to do that, you're going to be constantly paying a lot of money to someone else to do it. So you really need to have a little bit of knowledge about a motorcycle engine and stuff, which I haven't really got a clue about. So I would be probably hopeless at owning a classic bike, because if it went wrong, I probably wouldn't know where to start. So
I'm all right with tinkering a bit.
yeah.
I just noticed it hasn't got an air filter, has it?
No.
Does it just come straight in?
Yeah.
It does. It just comes straight out. So don't ride anywhere dusty.
No. As we always say, please do subscribe. It's free, and we've got loads of interesting bikes coming up this year, so you don't want to miss out. And the more we grow, the better bikes we can get hold of. So people always look at numbers, and having a bigger number, the more likely you are to get hold of stuff. Isn't that right? So it helps us out, and it helps you out because you get to see better content. On another note, this silly man has shaved his beard again.
Oh,
He has a. I said it in the Honda video the other day, but you hadn't realised you didn't like it yet, have you?
No, that's the thing. I was looking at some pictures on. So I had this growing the beard back again, and it was doing all right. Then I decided to change the shape, and I sort of blended out the edges, and I didn't like it. So it wasn't growing back quite how I liked it. Then I saw a picture of Troy Hawk, you know, the comedian. He's very funny, and David Beckham with it, and I thought, no, that looks nice. So I started doing it. And once you start jigging into it, you've got to carry on. So. Yeah, unfortunately, after I finished the next day, I thought, oh, what have I done? So the beard's going to have to start growing again. So you might have to start putting special cream on me.
I say this every time. For the last sort of 10 years, you go through phases and you go, oh, I'm going to shave it all off. I've had enough of it. I want to look completely different. And every time you regret it. And every time I say, don't do it, you'll regret it. And you go, no, I've had enough of it. And every time I'm right.
Yeah. So. In a normal father-son relationship, the father gives advices to his son. But in this case, I need to look to you for advice, don't I?
Yes.
I was just thinking, Darcy, if you were thinking about buying a motorbike and you were looking at a modern classic motorcycle like that, Jawa,
Jawa.
or the Royal Enfield, or the Triumph Bonnevilles, or Kawasaki W800, what else is there?
Moto Guzzi.
Something like that. If you wanted a classic bike maybe instead, you think, well, do you know, I quite fancy a classic bike. It's a very different experience, isn't it?
Completely different.
So, yeah, like you say, you need to be able to tinker. You need to understand it's got character. You've got to do everything slowly. It's not going to be particularly fast, but it certainly keeps up with modern traffic.
But it doesn't stop with modern traffic.
No, you'll drive into the backs of various vehicles at some point in time, I would imagine.
Yeah. So, I think for me, I wouldn't buy a classic bike. As much as I love them to look at and to have a go on, I wouldn't want to own one, because I think, one, I'd worry about it so much, and I'd want it to be absolutely perfect. And as I said, I don't really know much about mechanics of things, but I love the modern classics like a Moto Guzzi V7 because you still get a lot of character with it, but it also has good performance and it works most of the time. And people complain about certain bikes. I've seen certain comments saying, oh, they're not reliable and blah, 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 but we are spoilt a bit, I think, in this new day and age, because bikes that people say are unreliable now are actually extremely reliable compared to something like this. So it's a completely different experience.
Totally.
Another thing I've just noticed is the difference in paint, because paint is very, it's like someone's brushed it on. I think they have. You've used a paintbrush and brushed it on. It's very different.
Might not be original, I guess, but
might not. No. Handling of this Ariel is quite twitchy, so it really does change direction quite snappily. Snappily, is that a word? I don't think it is. But that can be a little bit worrying at speed, and I wouldn't particularly want to go any faster than sort of 40 or 50 miles an hour on this bike, because the higher the speed you get to, the more you have to think ahead about when you're going to stop. So I wonder if there probably is a way of putting more of a modern internal in the drum brake that works better, but people who like classic bikes would probably say that's totally wrong to even think about, because they want everything to be original. But I think certain things like that, if you're doing like what they call a resto mod, where you take a retro bike or car and improve it with modern things, but keep it looking retro. So you could improve the internals of the drum brake to a more modern one, like what was seen on the back of the Jawa or the W800, the older models, to have better braking but still maintain that beautiful classic look. But I think any classic bike rider will disagree with me probably. So I think that is all we can say about this beautiful classic motorcycle. First of hopefully many classic bikes to come up on the channel, so stay tuned for that. As we mentioned, we've got a 1980 CBX 1000 Honda coming up very soon. Unbelievable. And we should have a new Triumph Speed 400 coming. I did a review of that on the press launch, but on a press launch it's a very sort of tight schedule, so you can only do so much. So we'll have it for 2 weeks, so we've got longer with it, and I should have a Hunter 350 Royal Enfield coming at the same time. So I've always wanted to do a comparison between those two bikes because they look very similar and they're quite different to ride. So they're similar pricing as well. Royal Enfield's a bit cheaper. So if you're looking for one of those, you may well be looking at both. So stay tuned for that and many other stuff coming up, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yep, we'll see you next time. Right, that's good. I didn't say much.
No.